Welcome to the Green Wisdom Health Podcast with Dr. Stephen and Janet Lewis, where you will learn about natural solutions to common ailments. And now, here are your hosts, Dr. Stephen and Janet Lewis.
Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of the Green Wisdom Health Show. I'm Janet Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Lewis.
And we have a very exciting new show for you today called Looking Beyond Normal Lab Results. Why are we talking about that, Dr. Lewis?
Well, I try to get people educated and I try to get people to think differently, because if you keep thinking what you've been thinking, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. And we're the sickest nation on the face of the earth. So maybe we should decrease our thinking and increase our thinking, critical thinking, thinking outside the box, create a new paradigm for health. Like as I say, you're normal. What is normal? These reference ranges cover literally 95% of America, which we're very much overweight, we're stressed, and mostly because we talk about it, but stress can be mental, physical, spiritual, financial, relationship stress, and certainly the plastics and pesticides, the toxic environment. I had a neighbor talk to another neighbor in front of me about plastics. It's like, well, I've been talking about that for 20 or 30 years and you're just now catching on. So normal is what's common, but it's not normal. So just when they say normal, think the word common.
So all the people we have out there that have been seeing us for years and years and have been listening to you, they're way ahead of the curve, right?
Most of them are.
Good. Well, a lot of times when someone calls in and they're new at our place, they'll say, I just had my blood work done and they said it was normal, but I still don't feel like myself. I'm having fatigue, brain fog, digestive issues, joint discomfort, low energy, but the doctor told me my lab was normal. Is that what you're talking about as far as what are you looking for? Optimal, or what are you trying to do?
Well, I'm always looking for optimal, because I think we should always be trying to create better health, no matter how good you are. And, if you're taking any kind of medication, and that's not my business to say you should or should not, but can you think about why you have sudden onset of headaches or even infertility? Many drugs actually cause that. Liver and kidney problems, because your liver and kidneys have to filter out the drugs, and they have enough of the environmental toxins to deal with anyway. Some people get memory loss and confusion. I was talking to a young doctor yesterday. He's like 55 and in great shape. He said when he went on statin drugs, he would go through the store hanging onto the buggy and ask his children, what is my name?
Yeah, he was young.
Yeah, an Ironman. He's really triathlete, but the statin drugs made him ask his children who he was.
And we're not telling you not to do statin drugs. We're just saying there's some pretty big side effects from some of that stuff.
No, and I don't get into that. That's not my forte. The medical doctors are really good at what they do, and I admire them, and they've saved my life more than once. But, I had this very mean cardiologist say, why should I save your life during a heart attack? Why should I save your life? Because you're a holistic doctor. I said, I'm not here to challenge you. I'm here asking for your help. And then he says, he was anti-holistic. So I gave him about 5 pages of their own research, like EFAs reduce heart mortality 29 to 40%. EFA stands for essential fatty acids. And that's from American Journal of Cardiology, Journal of Circulation, and Lancet. EFAs reduce blood pressure. They reduce cholesterol. They reduce the chance of diabetes. That's from American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. Supplementing, and we're going to get into this, supplementing with B-complex has to be a good one, however, but it lowers homocysteine levels. And that's something that even my good, nice cardiologist says, well, we don't check that until after you've had your heart attack. Well, your homocysteine, and that's one of the things I hope Janet brings up, should be a 6 to an 8 or below. And many people are 10 or 15. And if you lower your homocysteine levels, it saves significant cost in health care. And that's from Journal of the American Medical Association. So why doctors, only a few, why do they have a problem with their own research about supplements? One cardiologist says, well, they're not double-blind studies. It's like most of them are. It's been proven. So ideally, you need the medical profession and you need somebody that practices holistically like me.
So that's kind of what makes functional testing different, right? We focus on understanding how the body's functioning and looking at it before disease develops.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting for the diagnosis of the problem, which is what the medicine does, is they wait for the problem to be a manifested issue.
Even in those parameters, some doctors will say, well, you're within normal limits. No, you're within the limits of 95% of America. And I asked an airline pilot one time, what would happen if you were only off 1 degree? He said, well, I wouldn't arrive at the right airport. Okay, well, I do analogies like that so people begin to think outside the box. I know I'm a little convoluted in my thinking, but maybe we need to be so we can get to be a healthier, happier, less stressed nation.
Well, and I think your body very much gives you warning signs and signals way before it becomes an issue. And all we're doing is running more extensive lab panels than what you're normally getting from your doctor because we don't want to guess. And we're trying to look at some of those signals before it actually does manifest itself as a bad problem.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about how to prevent these things from happening, having larger issues down the road. And I know you are fond of the oil change analogy.
Yeah.
If you could tell people what you're talking about, how that relates to the body.
Well, I tell people, or they'll take something, and the thing that stops most people is a little bit of fear or doubt, or I don't feel better. It's like, well, you don't feel cancer or heart disease for 20 or 30 years while it's manifesting. Although we all want to feel better, and that's part of my goal for you also, it's not the entire piece of the equation. And I tell people, I just changed my oil in my truck or had it changed for $108. It didn't drive better. It didn't get better acceleration. It didn't get better gas mileage. Why would I change the oil? Because I didn't feel the difference.
So are you saying driving up at the oil change place with your engine on fire is too little too late?
I said that to my cardiologist, which I'm sure he didn't appreciate. He said, well, yeah, we check homocysteine and fibrinogen and HSCRP, HS being the good one, for high sensitivity. He said, we do it after you have a heart attack. I said, oh, so you think when your engine's on fire, you take it and get your oil changed? I don't think he appreciated me, but he's really sweet. You know, I've had 2 cardiologists. There's a good one and there's a bad one. Oh, they're both good. Just one of them's mean and one of them's sweet.
Well, one of the things that functional medicine often evaluates is chronic low-grade inflammation. Inflammation's a normal part of your immune system.
Yeah.
But why would your body be in a chronic low-grade inflammatory state?
Well, you know, one of the other tests that we do that I didn't mean to talk about today, but we'll do a food sensitivity test where it'll show food allergies and food sensitivities, like the sweet lady up in Minnesota that I talked to yesterday, Dawn. Hi, Dawn. She's a doll to talk to. She says, but I did this test and I love cheese and I'm allergic to dairy products and casein and cashews. I said, I know, but it's keeping that low-grade inflammation. I said, you cut it back. Let's fix your GI tract. Let's fix the leaky gut. Let's fix this. Let's fix that. And then we can put you on specific, very specific digestive enzymes that help deal with dairy and gluten.
Which I heard her say, well, if I hadn't started looking at lab from a functional medicine approach, I would have never known I needed to do a food sensitivity test, and I would have never known I had allergies to that. So, you know, it's kind of like opening Pandora's box. You're not just waiting for the end result. You're looking at why is it happening now. And And I know, as you mentioned, iron. Is iron something that shows up as a chronic low-grade inflammatory condition?
Yeah, when it gets too high, and there, you've got your parameters based on our sick population, then you have optimal parameters. More is not better. You have to have it. Too little is not a good thing, but more is not a good thing either, because it begins to oxidize or so-called rust you out. And it's really hard on your brain, your heart, and your liver. And I saw a guy die of liver disease based on high iron hemochromatosis, and it was not a pretty way to go. So my advice to you, there's a scripture in Galatians 6:9 says, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up."
So is chronic inflammation a concern with like heart and energy and mood changes? Is that all? Is that all chronic inflammation?
Well, that's at least part of the equation. And folks, if you don't say that your wife has low grade or chronic inflammation, don't say that about your wife, because a cold supper ain't all you won't get. You'll get the cold shoulder too. So got to be careful how you speak about your spouse. Help them build up, don't tear them down.
So when you're running lab work, are you running a panel that shows this chronic inflammation?
Well, there's different ways to look at it, and iron is one of them. Ferritin is what's in the storehouse, what's in the warehouse. And I think the parameters go way, way high, and they start real low. On a woman, depending on what resource you're reading, on a woman, optimal is about 30 to 70, although I see that women usually do better once you get it up around 40. On a man, maybe 75 to 150. So if you get really, really 300, 400, 500 on your ferritin, that's too much, and it's going to burden your liver, your brain, and your heart. My analogy again is, well, that's like having 90 weight oil in your car. It's still going to pump, but it's going to put pressure on the pump because it's hard, it's thick, it has high viscosity, and the pump has to work harder, which in a human would be your heart.
Well, and I know sometimes people will send us lab and they have a CRP on it, a C-reactive protein, but it's not high sensitivity. So what is the difference between those two?
Well, CRP generally, it's called C-reactive protein. It's more of a overview of inflammatory process in your body, and sometimes that can be just an underlying infection. HSCRP, HS stands for high sensitivity.
Which is more of a...
More cardiac specific.
Cardiac specific. And then you talked about homocysteine. Is that also something you're checking for? What do you do if they have a high homocysteine? What is that?
You give them specific supplement that's high in B12 and high in B6 and high in MTHF, which is the right kind of folic acid. That stands for methylene tetrahydrofolate.
Oh, very impressive.
Yeah, and there are some brands that are much, much more absorbable than others, and it's about the conversion of cysteine and methionine. And I had that conversation with my cardiologist here not long ago. Well, your homocysteine is still too high. Mine was an 8, and optimal 6 to 8 or below. I said, do you remember your genetics? And he says, well, a little bit. And I said, well, I have the homozygous 677T, and that means I don't metabolize it real well. He said, well, take twice as much of it. So now I get 2 of those pills a day, which I think is almost overdose because it gives me way too much energy, says my wife. So yeah, you have to do that. It needs to be methylcobalamin, because believe it or not, some people are selling you cyanocobalamin. If somebody puts that in their formula, you need to ditch the whole dadgum company. You know where cyanocobalamin comes from? It comes from E. coli and Pseudomonas.
I don't know what Pseudomonas is, but E. coli, isn't that a bad bacteria?
Pseudomonas, you don't want that either. It's not a good thing. And they'll metabolize it from the most common microorganisms in the sewer, which I think is hilarious.
I can barely say it. I sure don't want it.
No, you really don't, I promise you. That's why we keep your immune system going with specific immunoglobulins.
And then, I see people bring the lab in, and it used to be they would only bring us glucose, which is what a fasting glucose of just a few hours before.
Small snapshot of time.
Right. Now they've gotten pretty good, and they've added on a hemoglobin A1C.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we see that. And we see people where that A1C is in normal range, right? Sometimes. I mean, it's not common anymore because of our diets, but
Yeah.
but there are people that say, I feel bad, and we think it's a blood sugar problem. We look at their A1C, and it looks pretty good. But
Yes.
what else are you looking at to see whether it's pretty good?
Yes, but you look at insulin, fasting insulin. You can have a perfect A1C, which I think the optimal range is about a 4.8 to 5.3, maybe a 5.4. Then all of a sudden you get to 5.7. Holy cow, I'm pre-diabetic. When we look at insulin, you may have the perfect A1C, but you can't get the insulin in the cells, so you have higher insulin, and the range goes to 24.6 on insulin on most labs. Well, you shouldn't get it past about 7. And that means you're insulin resistant. Well, why are you insulin resistant? Well, because you've had decades of doing the wrong kinds of fats, which is canola, sunflower, soy, corn oil, and it is in your cell wall, so it makes it really hard to get insulin into the cell as well as other nutrients, and hard to get the waste products out. And so it shuts down, or at least very much slows down, mitochondria. That's the powerhouse of the cell, and there's supposed to be like hundreds in each cell. So, it's kind of a complicated thing, but we can look at what optimal should be and address it with supplements. Now, we can't make any claim about what the supplements do per the FDA, but we see what's happening without the supplements, and it's not good health.
So your A1C being normal and your insulin being high
Yeah.
means what? That the body's still trying to keep up? Their pancreas is still trying to go?
Yeah, well, insulin's a fat storage molecule, and people just reel backwards when I say that and start looking at their belly fat.
Yeah, they usually have it right in the middle, right?
Yeah, but not you.
Oh, I know. You either. Because we're walkers.
Yeah. Okay, that was a stab. I got more than a look. I got a knife in the back. Yes, I walk with her. I don't like it, but I do it. Anyway.
Insulin, belly fat.
Yeah. Well, when the insulin goes around, it says, oh, well, I've got all this glucose and I've got to carry it around. Well, I'll clog it up in the liver. The AST and ALTs will start going high because it makes triglycerides. And if it's doing that, we know your diet's got too many sugars and carbohydrates in it. And then it'll start clogging up your liver and give you non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And then it says, well, I don't want to kill her with, fatty liver. So it starts depositing that
And then
in the fat cells.
And then the cholesterol starts going higher.
Yep.
The triglycerides.
Well, cholesterol, it depends on what research you read. But cholesterol's not that big a deal, according to many, many books full of massive amount of research that I've read. And lower's not better, and that's my opinion. But, it's good for joint health. It's certainly good for keeping the brain healthy. And the lower it goes, the more it makes your brain go to heck in a bucket, like this young doctor that was going through. He was on his statin drugs and asking his kids what his name was. So, yeah, it's kind of a complicated thing. And, you can do a big part of that with essential fatty acids, a good fish oil. And more of it is better. And sometimes it's like not putting it in is the entire picture. You have to have digestive enzymes because your liver and pancreas are tired and overworked, so they don't put out enough of the enzymes that it should.
This sounds super complicated.
Yeah, you throw it in, ask God to bless it.
Thank God you're around so that we can get your knowledge and figure out the best path forward. So inflammatory markers that are elevated, the body is experiencing ongoing stress from things like what? Poor sleep, chronic stress. I mean, is this stuff that changes fast, or is this a slow process?
That's a good question, because I had a question from a lady yesterday. Well, you just got started. Physiology takes time. And then when I asked somebody, well, how long did it take you and God to make a baby? 9 months. I said, well, why are you bitching after 3 weeks? Come on, it takes some time. You give it some time. Keep the faith. And there's also massive amount of research. Again, I read a lot that says if you think about good things, it actually creates it physiologically in your body. If you think about bad things, it's looking for bad and creates it. Doesn't just find it, it creates it. So these Pollyanna type people, all things work for good. Yeah, it really does. And so I tell people, have some faith, call me, I'll be your cheerleader. I'm glad to do it. The positive people get positive results. Negative people get negative results.
Well, I know a lot of people have gut health imbalances.
Yes.
Is that a common issue?
That's almost normal or common, yeah, because we have genetically modified foods. And plenty of research on that too. I don't do wheat. I tell people about wheat that we've known is bad since the 1940s. But
you're talking about that. We were eating at a restaurant, and Dr. Lewis and I don't do bread, and people think that's so weird. And there was this couple that came by, and they said, "What are you having?" And I said,
oh, yeah.
And what we did, they only had like Subway sandwiches type thing available. And so what we did is we had them make one of those sandwiches into a salad. And it was enough for both of us. We were sharing one of those
and we threw
salads.
Away about a third of it after both of us ate on it.
But the lady looked at us like we had 3 heads, and she said, "So you just took the bread off and you're eating it like that?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Well, it does look really good." And I thought, I don't think people ever think outside of the box to do something different, but it's the breads and things that are really bothering their digestive systems, right?
Wheat is not a good thing. Of course, we live in East Texas, so we're pretty heavy Hispanic influence on our food. And so you go to corn chips. Well, corn is problematic also. Although it doesn't have the gluten, it has a Bt toxin spliced into it so that when the corn borer worm bites into a kernel of corn, it explodes the insides of his guts and kills him. And you think that Bt toxin's not hurting our GI tract?
Well, I think a lot of people eat bread and they get bloated from it.
Yeah.
And their gut is so messed up to start with.
They think they're full and satiated.
Correct. And they're actually bloated. Yeah. Their feeling of full is actually bloated. And if you ever get off of bread for a while, you'll realize that's not full. That's bloat. And if you have bread again, it feels horrible. And
it feels different when we take our digestive enzymes versus the few times we don't take them. It's like, well, we can get bloated there. The damaged gut, you have increased permeability, so it's able to bring in more of the bad things, the partially and not digested very well proteins, and the toxins enter the blood, and that's from the wheat, that's from the corn, that's from some of the chemicals that sprayed on, like you'd be surprised some of the junk they put in our food that's not in European or Chinese food, in China, I mean. So you get that damaged gut, then you have an immune attack, so to speak, or 70% of your immune system is in your gut, and then it attacks the thyroid. I just talked to a lady that has Hashimoto's, and it's like, I'm still treating her for musculoskeletal things, but I said, once we fix your GI tract and your liver, and you go gluten-free, your thyroid's going to get much, much better. Then the thyroid, if you keep pushing it, it'll fail. Hormone production will drop. T3 conversion drops. And this T3 conversion takes place in the GI tract. Then the body begins to break down. And see, this takes many, many months, if not years, to happen. The systems will slow down, symptoms multiply, and it's just, it's crazy how people let that go, and they wait till it's a big problem. Oh my God, can you cure this? I said, only God can cure it, but the best way to fix something is, those fables have already been told. A stitch in time saves nine. Get started before it gets to be a big deal.
So if you were going to put someone on, just say one product, say they don't want to do lab work, isn't there something you could recommend that they could just get started with that would make it kind of a catch-all difference?
Well, it's yes, but it's certainly not complete. Start with a good multivitamin. I see people that are taking multivitamins that has the nastiest stuff in there, including poisons, red, different dyes. And so why would you put a cancer-causing dye in a vitamin? And it's in that aspirin a day that you people are taking. 81 milligram aspirin is full of cancer-causing things.
And when you used to X-ray people when you were doing more chiropractic, didn't you see those vitamins whole in their X-rays?
Yeah, I would do something really tacky. I'd say, "Oh my God, what is that?" And I'd point it out to the patient. They'd say, "I don't know. Is that a tumor?" I said, "No, that's your pills you're taking. That's in your colon about to be excreted out, and it's not even dissolved, much less utilized. And you're lucky if it does that, because a good multi has all kinds of things in it, like a little bit of vitamin E, which is D-alpha tocopherol. And I told my friend Brian down in Florida, no, I wouldn't take what they're suggesting because it has a DL alpha tocopherol, which means it's rotating both directions, which means it's synthetic, which means the liver and the body has to utilize a massive amount of energy to detox it. And it had all kinds of selenium sulfate. Sulfate's not a very absorbable type. My vitamin has the P5P, which is the B6, which is the one that helps your liver function real well and helps the neurotransmitters go from the gut to the brain, the happy hormones. Then it's got the folate, the quatropholate we talked about, the methylene tetrahydrofolic acid. Then it's got the methylcobalamin, which is the good B12, biotin, pantothenic acid, even got manganese and molybdenum and copper and selenium and zinc, which people don't talk about those very much.
Now that's our active mega multi.
It's the best I've ever found, especially for the money.
Okay, so basically, in summary,
I've never summed up anything.
We, get lab work, get thorough lab work. You can get that through us, believe it or not, because we do the extra panels. And then Dr. Lewis can address each one of these things he told you about, because I promise you're not going to remember everything he said, and there's always more in there. But the functional testing actually helps get the right nutrition changes that can reduce inflammation and improve your sleep and stress resilience, and address your gut health imbalances, support your nutrient levels with a targeted approach and high-grade nutraceuticals, not this over-the-counter stuff, and encourage lifestyle habits that you can start making now until waiting until you actually have a crisis. Is that about it in a nutshell?
Yeah, eating healthy and staying healthy for life is normal, but not common. And again, I don't think you can do it completely with the food. I read the research on nutrient levels on organic food and how it goes downhill 20 years later. But it's a really good start. Eat as clean as you can. Make sure you know where your beef is coming from, et cetera, et cetera. Do the pasture-raised eggs. They're much higher in nutrient levels. But developing a chronic disease as you get older, it's common, but it's not normal. And you can probably offset a lot of this if you just put a little bit of effort into it.
Well, and kudos to you guys that are out there that are putting the effort into it. We've had people that's been with us for many, many years and are consistently taking products to better their health. We're very proud of you. For those that have no idea what we're talking about, it's time for you to get a deeper look and find the missing piece in understanding why you haven't felt your best. Go to our website and fill out our health survey on greenwisdomhealth.com. And sadly, we've come to the end of our show, Dr. Lewis, so he always likes to add something in positive for you guys.
Well, I don't know if this is positive or this is in your face, but I'm going to go back to something I've already said, and that's Galatians. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up.
There you have it. You guys have a blessed week. We'll be here next time on the Green Wisdom Health Show.
Once again, our show has come to an end, but your hope in your health is only beginning. If you or a loved one are in need of a different outcome and are waiting for a brighter future, take the first step and go to our website and fill out the health survey. Please don't keep us a secret. If you know someone that could benefit from this podcast, please share this show with your friends and family. You're only one step away from a life worth living.